back on Yoga Spanda. This is our fourth episode dedicated to Shivoham Tantra. In this episode, my intention is in fact to speak a little bit more about Guruji Rajkumar himself, about what I know of him, about this lineage and his level of practice. I met him when I was 33 in 2006. He was about 44 years old at that point. So from what I know, from an early age, he was drawn towards practicing intensive tantric practice, meaning sadhana in the right hand path, sadhana meaning mantra practice and fire ceremony and all these things. So from the age of 14, in fact, he was guided by his guru, his main guru, Bhairavananda, to leave his village and to start to go up north towards Himalaya in order to meet various teachers in the physical body and in the through dreams and vision to receive practice from various aspects of Tantra, from various religion, from various different type of practice. So slowly he learned about many different aspects of Tantra and also other forms of practices like from various religion. So his main guru, Bhairavananda, that is not a physical guru, it's a kind of, you can say, an aspect of Shiva, came to him recurrently through vision, through dreams, to guide him to receive sadhana from various teachers. So he started very simply. A lot of time he didn't have enough to eat, but he was just focusing on just doing sadhana. Slowly, he started to get a little bit more knowledge. People start to see that he had some kind of energy, were starting to be attracted to him. They were getting advice from him, things like that. At some point, he had an ashram in the north of India. He was in charge of an ashram there to make things function, where people would come to do sadhana. And then later on in his life, his guru Bhairavananda told him, no, you have to go back to your home place and you have to dress like a normal person. No more like being dressed in white or like a swami in orange or anything. You're just to dress normally and come back to your home and continue your practice there. So when I was speaking a little bit about my practice, what I did there, like for example, my first sadhana with Brahma, I did 10 days, 8 hours per day, or the other sadhana. This is nothing compared to the level of sadhana that Guruji did himself. Just to give you an example, when he was back home in Saunir, at some point he was guided to do a 2-year sadhana, 8 hours per night in Adasa temple. It's a temple close by to Saunir, a very strong Shiva temple. There is also a Ganesha temple. Initially, that area, that temple complex, was only dedicated for people to go to do sadhana. It was kind of unknown from the public. Now, if you go there, you will see a lot of people coming to receive the blessing of Ganesh and the Shiva temple. Initially, when I started to go there, there was only the Ganesh temple that was attracting people. Nearly anybody would go to the Shiva temple. But the Shiva complex temple is a very powerful temple, a very special place. I personally am totally in love. Was totally in love to go there and to do sadhana. So I was kind of sometimes requesting from him to give me sadhana to go there, because it's a very powerful temple, a very old pit, a Shiva temple. So this is just to give you a bit of an idea. When I met him, I was 33, he was 44. So basically for 34 years, from the age of 14 to the age of 48, he was dedicated to do very strong sadhana. So when I said, for example, that in a Maha festival in the Navaratri, he connected me with the 10 Mahavidyas, this is just a starting point. He did so much sadhana with each of the Mahavidyas. So you have 10 Mahavidyas: Kali, Tara, Tripura Sundari, Bhuvaneshwari, Chinnamasta, Bagaramukhi, etc. There is 10 aspects of the goddess. He did sadhana extensively with enormous amount of mantras related with various of this archetype of the divine feminine. He did a tremendous amount of practice with the various aspects of Durga, through also different Navaratris. He did tremendous practice with various practice related with Shiva, with Brahma, with Vishnu, with basically all the archetype of the Hindu Tantra. But its practice didn't stop there. Its practice was extended also while he was staying in Himalaya. He had encounter with Tibetan lamas that gave him also some practice to do in Tibetan Buddhism to connect with the archetype that are in fact similar. We speak about Tara, you can say Vajrayogini can be related with Chinnamasta. So those archetypes that coming in that are present and strongly practiced in Tibetan Buddhism can be connected also with archetype of the Indian Tantra. But it didn't stop there. In fact, it was not only about Tantra. At some point, his guru guided him to start to connect also with archetype of different religion, like Jesus in Christianism, Sufism, Jainism, and other also minor and more important religion. So it's a little bit, you can compare him to Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna was this amazing saint of the 19th century in India that initially from an early age, about 12 years old also, got kind of into practicing Kali sadhana. And he was totally frantic, completely devoted to Kali. And then he reached enlightenment through his connection to Kali. And then he met Totapuri, his Advaita Vedanta teacher that helped him to see truth through this path of Advaita Vedanta. And from then on, he kept on doing and acquiring sadhanas from various religions, Christianism, Sufism, under the form of Hanuman. There's like so many practices. Well, Guruji is very similar at that level. He was kind of requested by his teacher to do all these sadhanas with Christian sadhana, Sufi sadhana, Jainist sadhana, Buddhist sadhana, Tantric Indian sadhana, in many, many, many levels of practice. Just to give you an example, when you speak about doing sadhana for Shiva, there is so many types of sadhana for Shiva. There is so many different mantras that you can use to get in resonance with Shiva. There is so many types of rituals, so many types of yajnas, ceremonies. So Guruji did this again and again and again. So in Tantra, one of the principles of Tantra is that you start to connect with various energies in order to somehow acquire that archetype, or to start to kind of create a connection, a resonance with that archetype. And when you start to connect, to have a connection with that archetype, you can start to kind of get the knowledge from it. For example, if you do a sadhana with Brahma, Brahma is the creative force of the universe. So when you start to kind of connect through mantras and various rituals to Brahma, you start to kind of have an understanding of the laws of the universe, the laws of creation, how this universe is kind of functioning. When you start to do sadhana with Tara, you start to understand the compassion and the guiding of the souls on this path of enlightenment. When Kali, you start to understand about time and beyond time and all these things. So Tantra is a path that helps you to connect with these various archetypes. It's a little bit like if you would say, if you compare that to Matrix, this amazing Hollywood movie, when Neo kind of got connected through his back of his head and start to learn Kung Fu. It's a little bit the same in Tantra, but the way we use it is through practice, through sadhana. So you start to connect with various knowledge, various information, various archetype through sadhana, through practice, through doing mantras, through doing fire ceremonies, rituals related with those various archetypes. And when you start to get connected, then you start to get direct knowledge from those sources. You don't need to read books anymore. Somehow you kind of get the knowledge directly from them. So you could say, if you are a musician and you want to kind of develop your skill of being a musician, well, in India there is a goddess, a Saraswati, or sometimes also a Matangi, or other various aspects of archetype that can help you to create this connection, to reinforce this in you. So you could say a genius, for example, in art or in science is simply a person that has a very strong connection with that specific knowledge, that specific kind of frequency, and can start to tap into it. And by practicing and developing his interest, he kind of create even a stronger resonance. This is basics of Tantra. Basically, there is archetype in the universe. You can connect with them and you can acquire them. So Guruji, as I said, did tremendous amount of sadhana. We are kind of peanuts. We are like midget when you compare our level of sadhana with what he did. He was asked by his guru during these 34 years to connect with all these archetypes again and again and deepen his connection, and also from the different religion. But not only that, also the energies of the different countries, the energy of the different rivers, the energy of different specific place. Because at that point, when I met him, he was not so much, in fact, involved into getting more disciples and guiding them. He was more involved to do some specific task on the subtle level under the guidance of his guru. So when you see today in spirituality, you can speak, okay, there is the teacher, the big teacher that you see that are kind of out there and teach a lot of students. And then there is people who are just kind of more in their mountain or whatever, in their cave and doing spiritual work. Those people who are in fact retiring in mountain and doing intense practice, they're not doing that only for themselves. They are doing that to help others. They have various tasks on the spiritual level in order to help to kind of raise the frequency of the planet. So for many years, Guruji was kind of more connected with that. He had to acquire all these various archetypes and to grow into his energy, to collect all these shaktis, all these energies, in order to do some specific task. It's only towards the last big puja we got kind of involved into a series of strong 6 pujas, and it's only towards the end of the puja that he got kind of retiring from this specific task he was doing to focus more on sharing this type of knowledge and practices towards various disciples. So nowadays there is an ashram, there is a place where you can go and eventually get some initiation, some treatment or things like that. But when I met him, he was just living in this village. He was sharing a house with his guru sister. He built that house for her and for her children, her child and grandchildren. And he was just mostly busy with this kind of connection on the third level. So it's only towards the end that it started to shift, and now it's kind of more open to receive more people who would be interested to grow on this path. So this, just to give you a little bit more understanding of his knowledge, of the amount of his practice and of his knowledge in Tantra and various other forms of spiritual practices. He kind of collected that along the time, experimenting also with various things, and kind of put that all together, and that is what is nowadays called Shivoham Tantra. But it is coming from, in fact, many different influences. At some point, just to give you an anecdote, I came to his place, and he was busy trying to kind of melt various metals to create some kind of wire in order to conduce electricity better. So he has kind of access to many various forms of knowledge, and sometimes he implements it not only like in the spiritual field, even also more dedicated to Ayurveda and to other forms of approaches. So I just wanted to share a little bit that, maybe to inspire you if you are practicing under this its guidance, and for others just to speak a little bit more about Tantra, about what is right-hand tantric path, what is the depth of this type of practice. Tantra is enormously vast. You have knowledge about so many things in Tantra, and it's a very old form of knowledge. Some people speak about up to 15,000 years that it started to be kind of transmitted on the way of oral tradition, and only more recently it started to be put onto written form, and it keeps on evolving and growing along the time. So just wanted to share a little bit about that. Thank you for your attention. As I said before in the previous episode, I will slowly start to speak about my experience bringing other people also to meet him, and this will be part of our next episode. So namaste and see you soon.